We're officially beginning. Okay, guys, so, hold on tight. Sorry, something went funny on my end. Alrighty, so happy Monday. Hope everybody's had a fantastic start to their week. And if you have, which of course is what I certainly hope you have, I hope that this, of course, just paves the way for how amazing the rest of the week will be. We are this evening, sorry, I'm like all over the place. I'm glad you can't see what I'm doing on my end because you'll be like, whoa, what's she up to? Okay, sorry guys. You have brains in your head with the exception of me. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. I love this. And this is great because this week, and I'm so excited, happy dance, we're going to be completing now the second unit. So speaking of that, let's take a look at what announcements I have lined up for us today. Okay, so how about I start from the bottom of my list since I already kind of, segued into this. So please carve away time this coming weekend. Say no to going out for dinner and drinks. Well, actually, you should never say no to that, but work around it because you want to definitely take a good chunk, or a good bite, I should say, into your Unit 2 practice tests. Remember, there are 3. And I'm also going to be giving you a heads up on Thursday when I give you this lecture again, that you won't just have 3 practice tests to take just to measure yourself for good form. Please also go back in time and take at least 1, if not more, Unit 1 practice test. So I always like to recommend budget a good 60, possibly 90 minutes, possibly more. I hope that you've kind of measured your performance from Unit 1, but schedule a fair amount of time over the course of the weekend because the goal is you're going to be equipped to rock out those Unit 2 practice tests. So that tells us what we need to do today. We're resuming on page 77. I want to go through 2 sections, one a little bit heavier than the next. So I'm really going to try to put my, what's the expression, my pedal to the metal. And if need be, I might just park some questions and I'll take a look at them and give them all the attention that they deserve, maybe at the tail end of the session. So I'll try to do my best to kind of make a judgment call. And then that leaves us on Thursday to really tackle the last section of this unit. In my experience, the last section of this unit tends to be a little bit heavier in terms of, the content and the understanding. It's unnecessarily hard, so I really want to, iron everything out and give, you guys everything I could possibly give you in case you feel not loving this. So that being said, Friday's tutorial, which spoke to how to apply for the exam. I did a live demo on my browser. That has since been loaded to the Hive, and to that respect as well, I have also shared with everybody our next tutorial. Now, it's not for eons away, but I figured, you know what, I'm just going to update it. So you can carve away time in your calendar on Friday, October the 4th at 1 o'clock Eastern time for 1 hour. I'm going to be hosting a Unit 1 boot camp. By that point, we're going to be into Unit 3. So I want to bring back Unit 1 because we cannot let new learning replace old learning. Okay, let's see. Comment is coming up. Boot camp. Will there be an archive for the boot camp lessons? Absolutely everything that we do is always recorded, and I always load up the recordings to the Hive. So yes, absolutely everything. You got it. Yeah. Other than like a private one-on-one conversation, absolutely everything is recorded. Okay, guys, so let's do this. Let's go into or onto page 77. I hope that you guys feel as I do about this section, which is, yay, something gentler or lighter. I never want to use the word easy, but if I could, I would say easier. So we're going to be taking a look at job analysis, job description, and job specification. I know, right? I hope you feel that way too. Yay! Like, give me a break already, right? Okay, so I want to talk really to differentiate between job analysis, job description, job specification, and truthfully, competency model. I don't know about you guys, but every once in a while, I have to do a little bit of like a gut check or a knowledge check, and especially differentiate what exactly is a competency model. And I'm actually going to get ahead of ourselves. And I am already going to preempt that in Unit 4, you're going to have a tough time differentiating job specification. Okay, just let's knock it up to been there, done that for a lot of people over the last couple of years. So I'm going to try to be proactive. So that's really what I want to tackle in this really short-lived section, because then I want to dive into recruitment with you. I love talking about recruitment. Okay, question for you. Has anybody ever in life or in vision, has anybody ever been through the experience of maybe going to like a car dealership and you see a model car, or maybe you've gone into a model home and you've seen, you know, ooh, wow, this is gorgeous, and all the bells and whistles, and yeah, okay, fantastic. So let's just take the example of that model show home, if you will, even if it's just, you know, kind of like, what are they called? Anyways, it's escaping me, doesn't matter. Let's think of those model homes. And you walk into this gorgeous kitchen, and you're thinking, I've got to have those granite countertops, or I've got to have the quartz, or I've got to have the backsplash, or I've got to have the double ovens, the built-in this, that, or the other. I've got to have the crown moldings. I need the speakers in the ceiling. Or is it just me? Well, of course, all of these, if you will, retailers, whether it's cars or residents, or even if it's these gorgeous outfits in the windows of the clothing stores or what have you, they show us, if you will, these models of perfection that make us feel, well, yeah, like I need the whole package. And it actually turns into not an I want, it's an I need. Well, it's no different in our world. We are creating that model, if you will, of perfection to fulfill a position. So I want you to think about, for example, any position in your organization, or frankly, any position in your life. It could be that perfect partner. It could be that perfect best friend. It could be that perfect gardener. I don't care. Think of somebody in your life. And I want you to think about all of those qualities, skills, those, if you will, those desirables that you want out of this individual. What would that perfect Ayatollah be like? That model, in other words. Okay. Well, that's what we do. And that's what, in other words, competency modeling is. Now, it is a bit more of a process. So, of course, it gives us a lot of tasks at hand. That's fine. But it's a process where we can identify all of the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, the behaviors that one must have, that we need one to have in order to be successful at, if you will, the job, or overall the performance required of the job. So really, this whole modeling, this whole Ayatollah of perfection, it describes what people need to know and what they need to be able to do, frankly, in order to really execute all the responsibilities required of the job effectively. And this is actually a vital part of our selection, our training, and actually, frankly, a lot of the other things that we do. But we've got to have a really good handle on what are the competencies that this perfect role model needs to have. Let's take a look at job analysis. Not to be confused with job evaluation. I'll talk about that in a moment. But job analysis is a matter of studying the jobs within an organization. You're just studying the job. What does it take to do the job? What does somebody need? We'll talk about who that somebody just might be, but what does somebody need to be successful, to be efficient, to be effective? So we ask ourselves, what tools, what equipment, what support do they need? And of course, yes, the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, the education, the experience, and so forth. Now, when you analyze the job, it helps actually with so many things that we HRers do, generally speaking, that being the HR functions. Now, blast from the past, what are our functions? Well, it's everything, frankly. We studied this all the way back in Unit 1. And frankly, it's everything you're going to be tested on It helps us with our planning. We spoke about this on Thursday. How can we plan to have the right people in the right place at the right time if we don't even know what we need? Certainly, with our fishing expedition, the sourcing, recruiting, and selecting, which clearly we're going to speak about in the balance of this unit. Helps us with our orientation. What are we going to talk about? What is important to these people, and likewise to us? Performance evaluation, not to mention job evaluation. Hey, let's link that into how are we paying people? Training, education, development. Discipline. We're going to discipline people if, for example, they're not aligned with what we need, which we have identified by means of the job analysis. 2, safety. I need to know what equipment you need, such as personal safety gear. Designing or redesigning a job. Very much so, we have to analyze the job. And of course, any legal protections. So we have a liability in everything. So job analysis is super, super important and plays a really big role, far above and beyond, of course, what we're going to be studying for immediate purposes. Now, a job analysis as well is going to help us, not to mention the EEOC, to actually prepare job descriptions. Because a description of the job, and not to mention the specifications, which we'll talk about, of the job, of course, are going to rely very heavily on the way in which we have analyzed it and what we've extracted from that analysis. So we see actually a lot of stuff is dependent on one another. Okay, we're bouncing back and forth quite a bit, but we now talk about the actual competency model. So we think about, once again, that Ayatollah. Well, a competency model serves a lot of purposes. One of the major purposes is it gives us a lot of valuable information about the external workforce. So in the sense that, okay, so what is that desirable perfection? What does that model look like out there? Compare it to what that model looks like in here in our organization. Where do we have competitive advantage? Where perhaps are we lagging? The Department of Labor actually has launched a huge initiative to create competency models. Why? Well, because in general, whether it is the DOL or whether it's, individual for an organization, whether it's, really elaborated or maybe it's a quicker version, the point here is this. Competency model will communicate industry needs. We need IT coders and designers if we're going to do anything relative to social media, for example. It helps us explore careers and helps us to understand, hey, we're diversifying skill sets. It also helps people prepare as they enter the labor force. Helps as well plan what training, what education, what knowledge do we need. So if, for example, it is within the competency model of an HR professional to be certified, not just have a master's, but be certified, it certainly helps to plan, no doubt, your path, my path. I think we have that in common for sure. As well, career paths, ladders, and lattices. Not every path is horizontal, but might be. Not every ladder is necessarily vertical, but it might be. But a blend between the two might be a lattice. You might be moving in a very zigzag kind of way because you're doing lateral opportunities as well as vertical. Sometimes you dip down, but you know that in the long run, perhaps taking a demotion opens up so many doors for promotions. So, everybody's got a different, if you will, succession plan for themselves. But we need to understand what is required or needed or preferred, hence the competency model. Workforce planning, we talked about that in our last class. Effective planning absolutely is always going to be matching this analysis to, of course, the competencies in-house and also what we're going to be looking for outside. Well, we talk about this some more in Unit 3, developing curriculum, education, training. It takes some really, really large organizations. I know IBM does this, HP does this, and I'm sure that's not even like a fraction of a percent of all the big companies, especially who do this. But these companies have actually kind of like their own educational system within. Not that it's worth maybe credits or I'm going to say, street creds, but I know IBM, for example, they have like IBM U. And no doubt about it, having conducted such competency models and analyses help to understand. So what are the topics that are going to be part of our company's little inner, if you will, university circle? And then, of course, certifications and licenses. Clearly, you know this all too well because we're undergoing that right now, but certainly not limited to. Think about if you were in payroll. There's a payroll certification. Job descriptions. No doubt about it, we're all too familiar. And you're probably thinking, oh, Jen was right. This is, like kinder, gentler content. Well, if you're thinking that, yay. You're welcome. Not that I can take credit. So a job description, of course, is identifying really the essentials of the job. It's really going to be listing duties and responsibilities a little bit more specifically, and just, maybe it's a little bit of a back to basics refresher. Let's take a look at really what a job description is made up of. So you're going to have identification of some sort, right? You got your job title, maybe it's a job number, maybe it's specific to a location. Really depends on how large the organization is, and of course, what is needed. Of course, then the job summary. In the summary, you're listing all the major responsibilities, but what's key, in a very, I would say, concise, action-filled description, all these major responsibilities are actually listed in the order of their weights of importance to the job, and also what the job can expect to do more or less of, kind of like the bodies of knowledge that are going to be making up your exam. We're going to see duties and responsibilities. These are the essential functions. Aha. And sometimes, often, but sometimes, we see the job specification blended within the job description. The job specification can absolutely be a separate document, and often it is. It will also depend sometimes on if the organization is recruiting internally and or externally. So it's different marketing approaches of the available opportunity. Regardless, if the job regardless whether the job specification is listed within the job description or it exists as its own separate document, and for whatever the reason may be, a job specification will specifically list those mandatory items that are non-negotiables, as I like to call it. A job description is a little bit more of like a story, a fairy tale story of the value adds. But this, in other words, is the company's bottom line. If you don't have this, don't be applying. That's how I see it. So you'll have the general qualification requirements, experience, training, maybe some specific job preparations, educational requirements or professional requirements, such as post-secondary, such as a professional designation. And that's why you may have seen, or maybe you have crafted, or you can envision seeing, but you may have come across job postings that might say, yeah, we're hiring for an HR manager, SPHR, or SHRM SCP required. It's a non-negotiable. And it would be listed in the job specification. And then, of course, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities. Pretty good stuff, right? How are you guys doing? Friendly? You see it all the time? Yeah, me too. What I'm happy to say is that I'm seeing more so professional designation or professional accreditation, but that speaks volumes. And if you're not sure, then it's definitely worth asking. But in any event, I think we're all pretty familiar. Okay, super. So the question is, so how do I develop this model? Hey, listen, if I was, let's say, the interior designer of that new, show home, how would I actually develop it? How do I know what people want? How do I know choose this crown molding over that crown molding? So here is really, high level, the preferred three-step process. First of all, get out your pencil. Insert 2, prepare a draft. That's why I'm specifying pencil and not ink. But you really want to make, if you will, that short list of the desirable KSAs. What are important to be successful at the job? If you cannot think quick on your feet, then maybe you won't be successful at the job. If you don't have good interpersonal and customer service relation skills, you may not be good at the job. If you can't add, you might not be good in accounting. I don't know. So with that list, you can then also survey the opinions of the experts. I'd like to ask a rhetorical question. The answer is kind of in front of you, but humor me. Who is an expert of the job? The person in it. Turn the question around on you. If somebody needed to create that picture of perfection of what it takes to do your job, who better to ask than you? Because you're kind of occupying the job. And not to mention probably, yes, cohorts. They might be able to weigh in with some value add. Supervisors, anybody within the span of control, so direct reports. But anybody who's intimate with the job are really the subject matter experts to be able to say, okay, add this to your wish list, because this really is going to be making, again, that model of like who is ideal to be successful and what it takes to be successful. Oh, and you're not going to like this one. Well, maybe you will. I don't. Conduct a criterion-related validity study. Okay, so these are words I don't like. This is a compound buzzword that really, frankly, I don't want to address right now. So we're not going to. Okay, no, it's not that simple. Criterion-related study is going to show up for us on Thursday. And so I am going to take this apart in so much more detail because it's going to be, I would say, more relative to the content that we're going to talk on Thursday. However, to scare you so you don't show up on Thursday, no, I'm just kidding, but just to give you a little bit of insight, if you're not already familiar, a criterion-related validity study basically is saying, I'm going to take some actual, factual, quantitative, results-oriented information, i.e. criterion. I'm going to blend it together with some subjective, observational kind of information. So I can't really qualify it, but you know what? I'm getting a good impression, so it's sitting well in my belly. When you blend the actual, factual, cannot be disputed because it's quantitative kinds of information, and you blend it with the, yeah, I'm getting a good vibe kind of information, you can actually create a little bit more of a hypothesis based on, if you will, like predictive conclusions. That really made absolutely no sense, even in my ears. So you've got a definition before you. I don't want to speak to the definition because, well, you can read that yourself. Forgive me, I might be repetitive. I only have so many examples in my arsenal, but take, for example, this, okay? So let's try out this exercise again because this is what I'm doing literally on my side of the monitor. Put out your palms, once again, palms to the ceiling, please. Your hands are open. Imagine in your left hand, we have here your attendance records of this course. That is an actual percentage. You are in attendance 97.2% of the time. I'm making up a number, okay? But that is an actual measure. I add that with another actual measure, the way in which you are scoring on your practice tests, good or bad. But I've got these actuals. The numbers don't lie. And then in the right hand now, I've got some other more, if you will, like subjective observations, such as responding to these wacky test your knowledge questions that I post on occasion in the lessons. The questions maybe you post as well in the group chat. The way perhaps maybe you respond to other classmates to show support or provoke thought or critical thoughts. Maybe the way that you are engaging in the hive and putting out questions. Whatever. I don't per se measure them, but yeah, I think we all generate observations by, if you will, effort. So the actual factual quantitative criteria or criterion is in my left hand. I'll be honest, that's the stuff for which I probably in about 2 months from now will be able to say, yeah, I predict you're going to pass. So much so, I back it up with a money back guarantee. Oh, voila, comes full circle. But then the stuff in the right hand, which we can't measure, it still does contribute, if you will, to your overall success in not just the course, it's more so preparing to be successful in your exam. So when I blend my left hand and my right hand together, like I said, in a couple of months, I'll be able to predict. Now, that's just a prediction. We'll see what, the final conclusion will be. I have to wait for real life to unfold, but it's a prediction. And that's what criterion-related validity study is. We're trying to ensure that efforts and quantitative measures are valid. And so all of that is studied. Does that make sense by you? Sorry. In my ears, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense it came out of my tongue properly. That makes sense. And remember, I got a really big, thorough explanation for you. That was just almost like a little teaser. Any questions? Maybe you need to let that marinate. Maybe your pens are like going off the page. How would you use this in the real world? Well, funny you should ask. And if you don't mind, not by any means because I'm trying to push it to a side, but that's actually what we're going to explain when we talk about validating our recruiting and selecting efforts. But how we would use it in the real world is how we make sure, in other words, that when we put candidates through all of the efforts during the recruiting and the selecting phase, such as resume, first interview, second interview, criminal background check, reference check, whatever it is that a candidate might undergo, if each of those things aren't validated, why do we ask them to do it? And so just a little snippet, that's how we use it in the real world, but I promise you on Thursday, that's actually what we're going to take a look at in section 5, and that's why I want to give it so much attention. But great question. Does my little teaser, though, make sense, at least for now? Does it kind of, leave you on the edge of your seat? Any questions? You guys okay? Okay, don't see anything coming in. I don't want to cut anybody off. I know that giving your fingers a workout. Yeah? Okay, super, super. Okay, well, I can always back up. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I want to predict the future based on past experience. So probably people will get confused between these two key buzzwords, which really sound a lot alike. And for all respective purposes, we could probably argue it to, frankly, be anything that we want it to be. So I'm going to make the prediction, and I wanted to enter in this slide into, I think, your deck and into, I guess, for your eyeballs right here, right now. You're not going to find this in your text. At least I don't believe so. I don't remember ever seeing it. This is my contribution to society. Job analysis, once again, which we have studied, of course, within the last, 20 or so minutes, is when we analyze the job. What does it take to do the job? What does it take to be successful in the job? What knowledge do we need, skills, education, training, what equipment, what kind of a working environment, what kind of a team support? Analyze the job from beginning to end, upside down, inside out. When we analyze the job, then we understand how to go and fish for the right candidate to do the job. On the other hand, as you see on the right-hand side, there's job evaluation. Now, this is not going to come up until Unit 4. And I hope my memory will not fail me when we get there. But when we do get there, I'll remind you again. But just to differentiate out of the gate here, job evaluation is when you evaluate the worth and the value of the job towards the bottom line of the organization. So you're evaluating how important is this job to the company still being in business tomorrow. And when we understand how important that job is, we can basically put a price to it. And so here, actually, this has everything to do with compensation. little FYI for fun. Okay, question coming in. Basically, analyzing our work. Correct. Yeah, I think the timing of when that question came in, although my response isn't as timely, I can say yes. So yes. Okay. And I think I've got Angie. You're saying a correlation study analysis. Yes, kind of. Yeah, we do want to find correlation between our efforts to, of course, the outcome. And if we don't find that correlation, then back to the drawing board. Super. So I'm so sorry that I'm seeing, I guess, the comments a little bit tardy, but yeah, you guys are on the ball. Okay. So page 81, please. And we are very close to bringing this section to a close. You'll be happy to know we get to go and do math. Oh, did I forget to mention that? Okay. Anyhow, job identification. So truth be told, and forgive me if I go at warp speed through this, I don't predict there being questions, truthfully, on exams of this nature. It's a hit or miss. It's not common. But at the same token, I don't want to leave you totally, unequipped. But I do predict, again, based on past, that any questions will be a little bit more knowledge-based. And I do think that our text has done a good job, and the content speaks volumes for itself. But let's just go over this, high level at the very least, because I don't want to leave you high and dry, of course. So to that perspective, or to that respect, so we've got the DOT, which stands for Dictionary of Occupational Titles. I want you to imagine this as literally, physically, a dictionary. And we're talking, it is hardcover, it's print copy. It's a classification system, in other words. In fact, this is produced by the Department of Labor. And you're going to see there's a 9-digit description code that is associated with, if you will, that occupational title, i.e. job. There's a whole bunch of these. We're looking at over 13,000 job descriptions that are going to be grouped in job categories. But here's the thing, just as you can imagine, everything changes on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. And yet this is literally a print version, kind of hard to keep up to date, especially with, our oh-so-changing times. So better yet, Department of Labor has modernized this DOT, if you will, into what they call the ONET. So I think right then and there, you can pretty much figure out where we're going with this. This is the dictionary on the internet. So it is an internet-based database. What really actually makes this ONET, or Occupational Information Network, a little bit better than the primitive DOT, the one above, is that, yes, it is an electronic library, but it focuses more on transferable skills. And so for that reason, it can actually connect to the market in a more timely and, I would say, up-to-date fashion. Let's take a look. Question coming in. It's not very user-friendly and seems terribly antiquated. Yes. And the ONET is not super user-friendly. You know what? That's I would say, helpful information. I personally have never actually seen either or, at least not, it sounds like, as not intimate, what's the word I'm looking for? Hands-on as you have. So, and I guess what do we expect from the Department of Labor, right? So good to know. And that's probably why you're probably not going to see any intense, if at all, questions on this. It's more factual than anything. But let's revisit the whole job analysis. And I'm sorry, I find that a lot of the content in this section, I'm just trying to go with the flow with it, but kind of gives me whiplash. So if you're feeling that way, I hear you. But again, so we've established, I get the impression, we have a really good handle on, so what is this job analysis? Okay, we got it. And doing a good job analysis helps us build out that model of desirable competencies. Great. The question now becomes, how do we do this job analysis? Now, I've left a lot of space on this page for anybody who really likes to take notes into the slides. And, that's why you'll find all this blank, or black space, so to speak. Let's take a look at these. So first and foremost, we can rely on observations. Great. In doing that, and for all of its pros, but I'm going to be pessimistic, I'm just going to list out here the cons. We have to trust that the observer is skilled. They know what to look for. We have to trust as well the observer doesn't have any rating errors. Some observers, and we're going to take a look at this a little bit deeper into our unit, tend to sometimes generalize, or sometimes they think everybody's perfect, or sometimes they are very critical and nobody can do anything right. So we're going on the judgment of an individual who is human and has an opinion. But as well, to that respect, and here's a new key buzzword for you. I'm going to type this in. I can't recall. I don't believe that we've ever addressed this. There is what is called inter-rater reliability. Oopsie, sorry, I can't type. I don't know if you can see I'm trying. But anyways, there's what is called inter-rater reliability. Inter-rater reliability is when you have multiple observers and they don't have the same opinion. So imagine maybe the last time you went to, let's say, a movie, or you went out to dinner with friends or family, but you went with at least one other person, possibly a handful of other people. Now maybe you walked away from, I don't know, that restaurant thinking, best meal I've ever had. Oh my gosh, let's make a reservation. I got to go back. And the person that you went with was thinking, are you kidding me? That was bland. It had no taste. Never again. I want a refund, in fact. Maybe there was a third person you went with, and they're thinking, neither here nor there, whatever. Could have lived without it, but I don't mind having had it. So who's right? Whose observation, based on their senses in this case, but like who's right? So there is no reliability. That's what inter-rater reliability is. Now, we also might have, and here's a key buzzword that we've seen before, but I'll type it in because I think I'm on a roll now. There's the Hawthorne effect. Hope there's no typos in my typing. Sorry, guys. The Hawthorne effect, just to bring back lessons of the past, is sometimes what you see is not what you get. And I mean literally what you see. Sometimes we overperform or underperform because of nerves. I'm double checking my spelling right now and I'm thinking, yeah, I'll be honest. It doesn't matter how many times I do this, and it doesn't matter that we already, I think, have a really good rapport with one another. I'm nervous. Every single time I start a lesson, I'm nervous. And now I'm nervous because I'm typing. You guys are watching me. And that was also the example that I gave last time. That's the Hawthorne effect. So observations are good, but look, with everything, there's the good and there's the bad. Well, maybe we'll do an interview. Look, I said before, who better to really get an understanding of the job and what it takes to do the job than, well, the person in the job. So sure, we can conduct an interview. Generally speaking, which is what we're going to talk about in the next couple of sections, interviews are not reliable. Oh, they're good. I don't think they're going anywhere. But generally speaking, interviews are not reliable because any two interviews, I'm going to call it a conversation, are not necessarily the same. Because the one key variable, the candidate or the person you're interviewing, is going to have the same conversation. But also, there's something else that we have to worry about. It's called intra-rater reliability, as I type this. Intra-rater, not to be confused with inter-rater, oh my gosh, is singular. So a good example of intra-rater problems, i.e. not having reliability, so no consistency, is what if the interviewer doesn't know what they're doing? Then whatever it is that they take notes on and they walk away with doesn't serve our purpose. So if the idea, right? So if the idea is, hey, go and do a job analysis. Please interview the individual who's in the job right now. And if that interviewer says, so how do you like the job? And how long do you see being with us? All good information, but it's not serving our purpose. Okay, well, if we want to really actually tighten things up, we may rely on a questionnaire, which is great. It's definitely polishing up, if you will, any skepticism maybe for not having consistency. But, which we'll talk about on Thursday, we have to worry about the validity If a questionnaire, remember this from Unit 1, does not do what it's set out to do, then the information we collect serves no purpose. Now, to that respect, you see in your text the key buzzword PAQ, P-A-Q. I can't remember where exactly. Maybe it's, over on page 83 towards the bottom. And this is a position analysis questionnaire. This is probably the most valid, thereby making it also incredibly reliable. Taking a look at about 190 plus items across 6 different categories. And this has been proven to be a very, very tight measure. And then, of course, so long as we are lawful with recording laws, there are employee recordings. Again, the Federal Wiretapping Act, you want to be mindful of that. We're going to take a look at that at the end of Unit 5. But the only cautionary thing I would say here is you have to worry about distortion. So, for example, I record all of these lessons, right? Let's be honest. I don't do this, but let's be honest. I can snip these lessons. What happens if at the end of a lesson, maybe somebody, myself included, says something really not appropriate? I can snip this. There's absolutely no record of it. So we have to worry about distortion. So while we have all these methods, again, there's always a cautionary tail. Okay, so let's wrap up this section, and in good conclusion fashion, I ask you a question. So which of the following is not included on a position analysis questionnaire? Really testing your independent studies here. Would it be mental processes, relationship with other persons, job context, or work schedule? Remember, what is the purpose of a PAQ? We're analyzing the job. Okay, we have a lot of responses coming in, which is fantastic. Super. I'm really excited for what's next, by the way. Okay. Alrighty, super. Okay, looks like your responses have slowed down. I always want to try to be responsive to your responses. There's a play on words, right? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, so point proven. Yeah, you're doing the reading. D is correct, so amazing. Good job. So that wraps up this section. So I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I warned you I thought you would, or I hope that you would. On page 86, you have 4 questions to test your knowledge. Okay, we are now actually in the final stretch. And I have to be honest, I love this stuff. So brace yourself. Here we go. Let's talk about recruitment. Guys, remind me again. Forgive me. I know I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask it again. Who has ever, including current time, has been in or is in a role of recruitment? Who has any experience with recruitment? Perfect. Fabulous. Okay. Think outside the box as well. I didn't ask you if it's work related. Have you ever had to select somebody? Good. I see a lot of people. You know, it's funny. Again, I am being terribly unscripted. Today, I had to choose between 2 candidates that I was, contemplating between for my high school kids to have a tutor. That's the type of recruitment. I sourced them. They went through my motions, and I selected one. There's a personal example. And you know what? Even how? Oh, don't even get me started. Gut feeling and price. Anyhow. But here's the thing, too. If anybody is thinking, no, I can't answer yes, i.e. I have experience, If you've ever had a job, whether it's past, present, or it's something you're undergoing right now for hopefully the future, even so much as if you've ever had a babysitting gig, or you've been a camp counselor, or you were selected to deliver the newspapers. If you ever had a job, I'm going to go out here on a limb and assume you've been through the recruiting process. So it doesn't matter what side of the table you've sat on. The reason why I'm saying this is please take all of that firsthand experience, personally or professionally, and again, no matter which side of the table you are sitting at, and bring this, of course, to everything we're studying now, because you have the upper hand to use your personal experience. And that's what's going to help you be successful in the exam as well. So I think it's important then at this point, I just want to differentiate. The text doesn't, but I can't help but get carried away. I'm sorry. I think it's important to differentiate 3 key steps here. There is sourcing, which I like to say going fishing. There is recruiting, which is getting the bite. And then there's selecting. You choose between all the fish you caught. You only need one, maybe. Now, we blend in this text the sourcing and the recruiting together. And truth be told, sometimes it also overlaps a little bit into the section, the last one that is. We'll take a look at that on Thursday, called selection. But I do think it is important anyhow to differentiate those 3 imperative steps. Okay, let's talk about employment branding. This is very, very important. Then we're going to go and talk about making sure that all of our sourcing, recruiting, selecting efforts are efficient. That goes back to talking about getting an ROI on every single decision we make. Bust out your calculators. Sorry, I should have warned you. I apologize. We're doing math. Yield ratios. It's really, really friendly. You're going to love it. It's not as bad at all is what we did, what was it, like 2 weeks ago. Time permitting, I think it will. We're going to take a look at internal and external sourcing. And again, let's just put a nice big red bow on how we can make sure that we're being efficient and we're being effective. And of course, again, how we draw those quantitative analytics. Okay. Employment branding, i.e. EVP. Employer value proposition. Everything that an employer wants to project themselves as, be it employer of choice, be it work-life balance, be it the fun place that you're going to work, you're going to love it, you're never going to leave, and we're really going to drain, your blood out of you. But that all comes from the imagery. It starts with the way in which that job posting is articulated, including to where that job posting was posted, and frankly, every other decision made in between. It's certainly not limited. But this too is where an organization not only can, always uphold its brand, what it stands for, but it's also attracting perhaps a certain clientele, or I should say, a certain candidate, because it's aligned with the company's values, which also speaks to the company's culture. So a lot of Unit 1 content is coming full circle here. Ask yourself, let's say maybe you were on Indeed recently, and if you weren't, try this as a fun little homework exercise. Go on Indeed. Please don't tell your manager I said this. Go on Indeed tonight or tomorrow, whatever, and just see, I don't know, which links you open, and read the posting. And then ask yourself, whoa, what's my takeaway? As in, oh, I'm a little bit enticed, or I didn't even finish the posting, bland, game over. So through this employer value proposition, yes, the employer needs to be very concerned with, am I projecting my image? Am I attracting who I want to attract? But then also imagine the employer is also thinking, who am I going fishing for? If I want that particular fish, I better put the right bait. So it is a reciprocal chemistry that is really being sought out here. A little bit more specifically though, let's see the 3 elements of that employer value proposition. Again, communicating the company's culture, the values, and the objectives. Don't be something you're not. Mean what you say and say what you mean. Attract the right person and get the right person attracted to you. Provide that honest picture of also the work environment. Now imagine this. I'm going to give you guys an example. Call me vain, I remember my very first job out of completing my master's. I was actually working, it was HR assistant capacity. There was just a two-person HR department, so I guess it was me and the HR manager who hired me. I was really, really excited. It was for a grocery wholesaler. I was there for like 3 weeks, but so I barely even remember it. But I do remember when I first went in for that interview, and it was only one, I was wowed. I was wowed by, if you will, the interaction, truthfully, of, the manager, so receptive and kind and polite and sweet. And I just felt a good vibe. I was like, yeah, I want to work for her. And also, I'll be honest, it was important to me to finally have, this was just me and where I was in my life, but it was important for me to finally have, if you will, that, kind of like, I don't know, headquarters. I always worked in retail, and I was used to like the back room of retail and being crammed. And that's also why I left retail. I was really excited to be like in that corporate office structure. And so first interview, I was sold. Everything was just right. Literally, physically, the work environment. And then I went in on my first day. And of course, only 20, actually not even 21, 15 subsequent days thereafter. And I was actually in the warehouse. And that's fine, but I didn't get a desk. I guess it wasn't that sit-down job that, truthfully, I wanted and I was aspiring for. I didn't get an honest picture, not verbally and not literally, like physically. So we weren't aligned. Who lost here? No doubt about it, we both did. I was out of work. I'll be honest with you, I was living with my parents. I was okay paying my bills. But the company turned over somebody. So not only did they waste a lot of money in recruiting a candidate, that's sunk cost, but turnover, generally speaking, studies show, costs the company 1 to 3% of that person's salary. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't making cajillions, but that's still lost money. Had they just created that picture right from the get-go, then they wouldn't have had the turnover and basically have to start the process all over again. So I see it that they lost more. And then last but not least, we want that branding from a recruiting point of view as well to tie in, of course, with all the other marketing. Apple does a really good job at that. I remember working for the Gap. Gap did a really good job of that. You're not going to see even different fonts amongst like these different postings. And usually it's not uncommon, at least in my experience, that marketing plays a very big part in helping HR do a lot of its HR-related marketing, because that's what it is. Okay, question coming in. You don't want to make a posting too wordy. Correct. People tend to pass the job. Absolutely. You're asking the Gap? When I worked at the Gap, like as in the organization, the retailer. I think that's what I said. Yeah, I worked there 10 years. So how do we determine what we need? Now, we did our HR planning, truth be told, but you know what? Sometimes it's not enough, or sometimes we can further complement it. So no doubt about it, our recruiting activities, they really don't take place until someone decides what kind of employees are needed and how many of them, right? We talked about that in our last lesson when we talked about HR planning. But typically, the whole process being the determining our needs and determining our objective and, going full throttle ahead, it's going to consist of, okay, well, we need to have a strategy. I'll give you an example. IBM, for certain levels, but they've identified the who's and the what's and the how many's. They do have a strategy, at least here in the Canadian operations. Their strategy is, I want to go to job fairs in undergraduate programs, and I'm searching only for final year, so third or fourth year students. That's their strategy. We want fresh, new minds who frankly don't cost us that much money. It's genius. One flat fee to rent that table, and everybody's running. Okay, it's just an example, but of a strategy. Of course, you search for the applicants. You've got your applicant tracking system. We've got the technology. We talked about that in Unit 1. Basically, it's like a cash register. Cha-ching, you just enter in those applicants. You screen out those who are not a good fit. I think I once read, and you could probably attest to this, guys, do not devote more than, 37 seconds or something like that to screening a resume. Do not devote more than that time. If they haven't caught you in 37 seconds, not a good fit. So we do a lot of pre-screens so we can, try to narrow it down. And then, of course, well, I guess I kind of get ahead of myself, maintain your applicant pool. We've got the technology, HRIS, ATS, anything basically that's a fancy acronym. But we take a look as well, how do we do the analysis? So sometimes we don't know what we need. Sometimes other people in the organization need to tell us what we need. And you guys might have this experience too, that being, we've got our employee requisitions. I put in an employee requisition 2 weeks ago. I need somebody else. I should know this Friday if I'm putting in some more. I think I need 3 more people. The line manager ideally knows, based on their regression analysis and everything that we talked about, doing our forecasting, right? But we'll be able to justify why we need who, how many, and possessing what knowledge, skills, and abilities. We also have to take into consideration, if you will, the range of cost. So no one position necessarily is going to cost the same, and no one circumstance is going to cost the same, but that's why you have a range, and you always, of course, want to err on the side of caution. I believe I read, it might be a little bit dated, but the average American position, now imagine the whole spectrum of positions that are, available out there in the country, but the average American position costs the average American employer $14,000 to hire. Now, some of you might be thinking, that's nothing. I'm hiring an executive where the compensation before incentive is probably $500,000. You're right. Then that's a small, amount to pay to recruit them. But some of you might be thinking in your, industry, whoa, that's a huge amount of money to hire, let's say, for example, a part-time sales associate. It's just an average. But yeah, you want to draw those metrics, like what we spoke about in Unit 1. What is the cost per lead? What is our cost per hire? All that matters to drive, am I being efficient? Am I being effective? And then, okay, depending on how you answer those questions, you massage it accordingly. But oh, folks, take a look at page 89. We need to know what our yield ratios are. Pause for a second. I see a comment coming in. Let me respond to this before I really get carried away, and I know it'll probably escape me to respond. Oh, no, never mind. I already responded to that. Hey, I'm on the ball. Okay, so let's talk about yield ratios. Those of you in recruiting, you might have some really strong firsthand experience with this. Some of you may be in recruiting and be thinking, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's cool too. Anybody who's been in a marketing or a sales capacity, you might be pretty familiar with, if I may, the funnel. But before I get even any further, I actually want to make this very personal. So forgive me, don't be alarmed. I'm going to pull up a white chalkboard or drawing board or what have you. So there's nothing wrong with your screen. I did that on purpose. I have a question for you. Anybody, please feel welcome to weigh in. In fact, I'm kind of relying on you to weigh in. When you decided to pursue the exam, and then you thought, woo, okay, I better gear up for this. So I think I'm going to, spend the money, and I'm going to do a prep course. And I bet, I'm just guessing here, but I bet you probably went on Google or whatever, Bing, but you went on Google, and you probably typed in, let's say, PHR prep course, or whatever the key buzzwords are. How many options showed up in your search? Just throw me a random number as best as you can recall. Okay, great. I have one classmate saying 8. It's a lot. Good. Anybody else want to weigh in just for the sake of, I don't know, getting your hands wet in this? If you found yourself in this situation, or pretend if you were to go and do it now, just for the sake of this exercise, and you were to go and type HR certification exam prep courses, how many show up? Probably a long time ago, and you're thinking, I don't remember. Oh my goodness. Maybe I'm catching you off guard. Okay, so let's go with 8. Can you guys all see that on my screen? On a white screen? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So, Bobby, I'll pick on you, if you don't mind. Sorry to single you out. You're probably thinking, what I do? Or anybody else who can kind of roll off of this. You had 8 choices. That's a lot. Clearly, you're going to narrow this down. And whatever your criteria was to narrow this down from 8, you may have looked at availability, reviews, price, a number of things. How many did you narrow this down to? As you just screened out some of those that you determined out of the gate, these aren't a fit for me. You went down to 2. Okay, fantastic. So what this tells us, in other words, is that for every 8 searches of this nature that you find online, you will screen out 6, in other words. 2 will become your final contenders. Now, in the world of yield ratios, we want to actually firm this up a little bit more. We always want to bring it down to be something to 1. Really, because real quantities will always vary. But ideally, you can make it singular, then that becomes a little bit more of a representative of behavior. So if you divide both sides by the number on the right, it basically says for every 4 options you see before you in online searches, 1 of them will become a final contender. We'll talk about this in more detail. So next time maybe you're going to search for, I don't know, underwater firefighting classes online. Just know that for every 4 that show up in your search, you might have 40 next time. But for every 4 that show up in your search, 1 of them will make it into the final 2. And then I'm going to finish the story if I may. Then you made your selection and you chose us. More grateful I could not be. And what this tells us now is that for every 2 final contenders you have, 1 will become your final choice. Now you can also take, so that's step by step, in case you wanted to really dissect every step of the process, which sometimes you do. And next time maybe you are searching for a program, or you are searching, I don't know, ask yourself, what are all the stages you go through when you're booking a vacation? Oh gosh, that's quite the funnel. Now a funnel obviously starts wide, as in the number 8. It's bigger than the others. And you taper down, you taper down, you taper down. And there is your funnel, or better yet, as I like to call it, your ice cream cone. But this will also tell us about, in this case, Bobby's behavior, that for every considerations he finds online, 1 will be the winner. So 1 out of 8. And again, it's just going to help plan next time when he does these monstrous kinds of searches. That is, let's just see, SHRM website had 1,900 for the class. Okay, great. Yeah, so basically well, no, not necessarily, Amelia. Let me actually explain a little bit better. No, not necessarily. So you know what? Let's actually do the example that you see on page 89. But before I do, just generally speaking, because I wanted to make this a very personal kind of, again, like funnel experience. You guys, I guess, feel good about, if I may, this example at hand. We're going to get a lot more specific, but so far, do you kind of see how we just wanted to kind of see the events as they unfolded? Okay, good. Let's make this real. Okay, there's a dollar value, but we're not even taking a look at the dollar value. But that's good. I agree. We are much less expensive, and there's a reason why I priced it the way I did. Okay, so I'm going to clear all of this, and I am going to move over my screen share. Oh, no, I lost. Hold on. Did I lose my slides? Can you guys, hold on. I seem to have lost. Can you see my slides of yield ratios? Sorry, on my end, things are just going wonky today. Yeah, okay, super, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a lot of drawing. I'm going to try to be really neat. Take your screenshots, take your notes along the way. Like I said, I'm going to do the best I can. I am referencing exactly what you have on page 89. But of course, it's okay if you just keep your eyes on the slide. You won't miss anything. Let me tell you a story. And try to put yourself in this story, because again, whether you are a recruiter or you've been recruited, you have this experience to some respect. So once upon a time, you went to work a job fair. You went to represent in the most dignified and brand image manners of possible your organization. Because your organization is a place to be. So you went and you worked that table. Well, while you were, if I may, working the table and really, representing the brand at the job fair, you shook hands with 60 candidates. And those are all of the body stick figures that you see at the top of this image. You can count them, go X by Y, but there's 60 of them. Take my word for it. You shook hands with 60 people. You had little pre-screens. Now, you're actually, what I didn't mention, forgive me, at the job fair because you're recruiting for the marketing assistant position. You only have one to fill. So unfortunately, tough choices to be made. Well, that's what it is to be a recruiter. Anyhow, you made some great conversations, like I said, with 60 people. You reviewed the resume, you revisited your notes from those pre-screen conversations during the job fair, and you decided to invite 10 of those candidates to an interview. They went through the motions, had great conversations again. Oh, not easy. And then you made a conditional offer to 2 candidates. Pretty smart. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. 2 conditional offers pending, let's say, criminal background check. Okay, criminal background checks came back, yada, yada, yada. You extended 1 offer to an individual who now became your new incumbent. That's the story. But these numbers are not what you may be dealing with next time, let's say in 4 months, when let's say you're hiring the PR assistant. So what's important here is you get a really good handle of how many people you're constantly putting through your filter so that this can help you, A, determine, was this a wise approach? Because if no, what do I need to change? And if yes, what am I going to keep the same? So let's actually do the mathematics now. The approach to this, and think it very personally. So I want you to think about, last time maybe you had to make any kind of selection. If it was a matter of, hey, how do I choose my favorite ice cream when I go to, I don't know, Ben & Jerry's? What this example tells us is that for every 60 people that I pre-screen at a job fair, 10 of them will actually materialize into an interview. Now, again, best rule of thumb when it comes to yield ratios is you always want to bring the measure, if I may, to be something, so unknown, X, to 1. So always bring it down to 1. You want to be able to say, 1 out of 5, I will fall in love with. 1 out of 2, I will buy, whatever the case is. So if that's the rule of thumb, I got to bring this down to be something to 1. Well, we may not be sure what to do with the numerator, in other words, the number to the left of the semicolon, but I do know how to bring the number on the right-hand side to 1. I divide it by itself. So Amelia, you know how you said, well, just divide it in half or divide it by 2? Actually, the best practice is just divide it by itself. Because 10 divided by 10 is 1. Well, what you do to the right, you do to the left. So divide the left side as well by 10. So basically divide both sides by the number on the right. And 60 divided by 10 is 6. So what that tells us is, okay, good to know. Next time, for every 6 people I pre-screen, 1 of them will actually make it to an interview. So I left you guys kind of quiet there for a while. Let me ask you, and I'm not even sure I still have my chat feature, but let me ask you, does that sit well with you so far before I go on? Because if you get this, like if that's, doing good by you, then the rest is going to be smooth sailing. Okay, super, super. I lost my chat box there for a second, so I was worried. Oh no, while I was explaining this, what did I lose? But it looks like nothing. So hey, good, good. We're in good shape. Okay, so that's the approach. That's it. Okay, so let's just finish the story though, because that was just one step in the recruiting process. Okay, so let's do the next one. Okay, so for every 10 people I interview, 2 of them will be extended a conditional offer. I'll divide both sides by the number on the right, which in this case is 2. Yay, that worked out well. We got lucky. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And 2 divided by 2, that's the goal, is 1. So I'll know for every 5 people I interview, and I might have interviewed 20. It's a ratio. But for every 5 people I interview, 1 of them is going to get a conditional offer. And then last but not least, we take a look at the final step in this particular story. For every 2 conditional offers I extend, 1 will become my new hire. Fortunately, we don't need to break this down anymore because it's like we can't break it down anymore. So basically, what I just drew out is the funnel. Again, started wide with many and tapered down and got narrowed towards the bottom. Now, I do have a trick to show you, but hold on, let me take a look at a question that's coming in. If you have failed to search, how does a yield ratio reflect that no one was selected? What do you mean, by like a pre-screen? Would that show that the job evaluation on the position itself needs to be revisited? So if, for example, you don't get any resumes or any candidates, then yes, this has nothing to do with yield ratios. I agree with you. I think this has to do with going back to the drawing board. That and or you didn't choose the right recruiting vehicle. So maybe you chose the wrong online destination. Maybe you targeted, for example, HR professionals for an accounting job. You're not going to get any bites there. So yeah, I definitely would revisit the strategy and or as well those resources. Another question. Yes, this is, oh, that happened to you? Okay. Yeah, all too many times. Now, is this a good number or not? Look, it's going to vary based on, I would say, the candidates. I'm going to say the quality of the candidates. So transferable skills, for example, or specialty of skills, for example, might also have to do with the industry. For me, I would say, hey, this is nothing in the retail industry. But again, so good number, bad number, again, you have benchmarks within your organization that will answer that question for you. So, oh, the candidate was hired, yet she didn't show up for the first day. So hold on to that thought, actually, Bobby. We're going to need that for Thursday. Remind me I asked you to do that. I'm going to forget. Let me put a big red bow on this, and then I've got to let you go. Oh, we almost met our goal. It's okay. We can piggyback onto Thursday. We're finishing this unit on Thursday. Okay. So in a very, very grand, arrogant gesture, if I may, while we took a look at what our ratios are from stage to stage to stage in the sourcing, recruiting, and selecting process, I'm going to make a claim. I think it's pretty logical, if I may say so myself. Overall, the yield ratio for this story is, for every 60 people I start with, I will find my person, my candidate, my new hire. So I should probably be always thinking, woo, I'm going to be on a good track if I've got 60 candidates submitting a resume and having a pre-screen with me, and I'll find my person. That's my average. Now, you may see where I got this number. I hope, sorry, my purple ink stands out. So I claim it's 60 to 1. Well, look, I started with 60, and I ended up with 1. Makes sense. Here's the trick. That I would say 8 out of 10 times, should you need to double check your math in an exam or in real life, this is what you want to do, okay? So my recommendation is, I didn't make this up. This is what I've learned, but take the numerator from each of the ratios of each of your stages. So I'm circling these with a thick kind of blue highlighter now, 6, 5, 2. Take each of those. Do not take the 1. The 1 is inevitable. It's a moot point. It's like it's 1. Now, multiply each of these by one another. Take a look what I'm going to do at the bottom left-hand corner. So I take the 6 from the 6-to-1 ratio. I multiply it by the next ratio number, which is 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Multiply that by the next and final numerator, that being a 2. 30 times 2 is 60. And voila, point proven. So basically, this is a good way to back up your work and just make sure, you're on point. So, to that respect, in typical Jen fashion, no, I didn't quite meet our goal, but we are almost there. Actually, I'm not too alarmed. So, if anybody's thinking, I got to get out of here, you're making my head explode, let me tell you what's next. We are going to be completing this unit. That is going to take us, it's a pretty heavy read, it's going to take us all the way to, I think it's like page 150 or page 151. I might be slightly off, but to the end of the book. I am going to challenge your good feeling understanding of yield ratios by posting, yeah, you asked for it, you're getting it, an exercise for you to do. And then in about a week, kind of like what I did last time, I'll post the answer key. Of course, I'm going to stay on the line because I do know, first of all, I do owe somebody a little bit more of an explanation with regards to Markov analysis. But if anybody has any questions about anything, maybe I'll open up first, for yield ratios since it's up on the screen. I'm here for you. Otherwise, in a matter of moments, I'm going to segue back to the chart of the Markov analysis. But if you're feeling really good and you loved today as much as I was hoping you would, then have a great rest of the night and I'll catch you Thursday. Okay, so we have a question coming in. So 4 yield ratios, got it. This is just one time. Wouldn't you need to string together a few occurrences to get a more accurate yield ratio? Maybe this time you start with 60, but next time it may be the same, 40 or 70 and so forth. Absolutely, agreed. I mean, every time we do something, every time we do something, it sets for us, if you will, a new standard or a new set of expectations. So absolutely, when you have enough experience that you can compile and maybe create an average saying, you know what, my average yield ratio is like 50-to-1, you're 100% right. But until we have those precedent setting, again, benchmarks, we're always, I think, working based on the last time or at least the most recent. But that's why calculating all of these kinds of metrics, whether it's time to fill, cost per lead, yield ratios, anything at all, again, it sets for us, if you will, standards. It also tells us where we can maybe tighten up to create more efficiencies, or as well, we're right on point, so keep doing what we're doing. It helps with like a stop, start, continue. But I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Okay. I don't see anything else that came in. I'm going to erase everything off my screen. Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay. So forgive me, and bear with me as well if I go silent for a moment. I'm just going to go and find our wonderful, there it was, wasn't so bad, our wonderful Markov analysis type table for our classmate who wanted to see it again and revisit this. You should, I hope, I think now be able to see it. Do you see the Markov table? I don't see that you see it. No. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Don't worry that maybe something went wrong. I did that on purpose. That's not, okay, something's real. Okay, it's not working for me today. Okay, I think I know what I did wrong. Hold on tight. I'll get there one of these days. Okay, almost there, almost there. Okay, you should be able to see it now. Can you see it? I'm sorry, I wish I had like an attendee's view. Yeah, okay, super. So I'll tell you what, let's try a different approach. And with a nice, small, intimate group size, feel welcome to unmute yourself, feel welcome to type me. What are you thinking? Are you thinking revisit everything from the beginning? Let's start from scratch, or was there a specific question that I can help out with? I'm all ears. Okay. Oh, then that's no good. Okay. Hey, the miracle question is, how many times can you listen to me yap without, I guess, kind of, I don't know, wanting to turn that off, right? Just ask my husband. Okay, let me start again, and you tell me, please, along the way, either go slower or if maybe I'm not making sense. Just because it makes sense on my ears doesn't mean it's working well for you, so you guys let me know. Okay. So before I even get into explaining why these numbers are what they are and how to really make sense of them, I just want to, and I'm thinking out loud here, so forgive me, I'm just going to revisit, if I may, why this is even done at all. So Markov, I forget the gentleman's first name, but as a theorist, Markov said, you know what, the best way for us to understand the future, which has yet to be determined, is for us to understand what has and or is happening. Same thing like what I tell you guys about the exams. I don't know, you don't know, and by the time we all know, it's too late. But all we can do is guesstimate based on what has happened. So Markov says, look, when it comes to planning your people in the organization, and more so, how many people do you have in a department? How many people do you have overall in the company? The best thing to do is understand what has happened historically. Because probably, remember this is a type of probabilistic forecasting, because probably what has happened will happen again. So Markov said, again, in the world of planning our people, the human capital, we really need to understand who's coming and who's a-going, i.e. turnover and or retention. Now, for testing purposes, should you see a question, the key buzzwords are Markov analysis equals movement of personnel. I'm actually just going to type that into the chat box in case, I don't know, there was a delay or my pronunciation is not cooperating for me. It is all about the movement of personnel. That's what he was concerned with. And so that's what he examined. To understand how many people came and went in a given period, he says, let's measure a year. It could be a calendar year, it could be a fiscal year. You just decide what's good for your company. I'm going to go with a calendar year, if you don't mind. He said, each of these columns, i.e. the x-axis, is really going to be where we're starting the calendar year off. So imagine all of these numbers that I've highlighted in red. Department A has 400 people, B 360, C 250, D 640. These are our staff levels in each of these four departments on January 1st, let's say, of 2017. Well, Markov says, look, this year has come and gone. So we already know how many people we ended the year with. Let's take a look at what that looks like. On the y-axis, we have our final numbers, again, of the same four departments. And these numbers, 326, 356, what have you, same departments, but these are our ending numbers of December 31st of the same year. So far, so good? Is that so well with you? Sorry, I'm not trying to be condescending. I just don't want to go any further until I know that. Yeah, okay, good. Okay. Now the question is, let's just take, for example, Department A. Department A, and try to relate this to you. Think of your department, just visualize. Oh, my department, I have X number of people. Pretend you're Department A. And this is just a scenario. This number was completely made up, pulled from the sky. But let's say Department A started the year on January 1st with 400 people. Then we're saying again, just a number pulled from the sky. But Department A ended the year on December 31st with 326. So the question is, where did 74 people go? Okay, It's all of the information in these cells in the table that answer that question. Where did 74 people go? Now, take your 2 index fingers as well, as we're going to go through all this information, so that you can bring the X and the Y axis, or rows and columns, however you like to call it, I guess, to be coordinates. In other words, to identify the cells. Think of it like an Excel spreadsheet. So in this first top cell, let me actually pull out a drawing tool here. This first top cell where it says 0.6, 240. How does that make sense? It shouldn't really say 0.6. It should really, what this represents is, imagine that the decimal went over 2 spaces to the right. This actually means 60%. And what it's saying, better yet, is that 60% of the 400 people that we started the year with went from Department A to Department A. Because again, take your 2 index fingers and that's the coordinates. You went from A to A. Well, that means that you didn't go anywhere. So it's retention. So what we know is that 60% of 400, which if you pump it into a calculator, it's 240 people, stayed in Department A. But let's go down with the column to understand movement out of A. That's what the columns say, movement out of A. So the next cell just below says, well, hold on, 10%, again, 0.1, imagine multiplying that by 100 or move the decimal over, but 10% of 400 people, which is 40, left A, and they went to, run over horizontally, they went to Department B. So it took away from Department A, and it added to Department B. That's turnover. Stayed in the company, but it turned over from the department. Okay, we lost another 40 people, again 10%, from A, and they went to C. We lost another 40 people. They went to D. And then we lost another 40 people, and they just completely left the organization. There is no internal transfer. So what we're seeing here actually, and if you have a calculator handy, try this, but we're actually seeing that, 160 people left Department A. Sorry, I can't draw that very well. We lost 160 people from A. So far, so good? Yeah, okay. And mathematically as well, just occurred to me, kind of adds up. Because basically, this whole vertical should add to 400. We kept 240, we lost 160, there's your 400. But that doesn't make sense. Because we are saying, at the end of the year, we ended with 326. Okay, so when you look at the horizontal now, basically the row for A, we have to see where do we get more people. So, while we lost 160, we gained 36 people, which is 10% of B's starting 360 number. We gained another 50 people from C, because remember, these people left these departments and they joined horizontally the department of that row. And we didn't gain anybody from D, so that's a nobody. So when you add all the numbers now running on the row, 240 plus 360 is what? 276, and then 276 plus 50, there's your 326. So we got a good understanding here, just Department A analyzing it. So you could do this for all the other columns and all the other rows to understand where people came and went, to tell us, so that's where I started, but this is why I ended where I did. That's, I would say, 92.7, 90% of the understanding. But does that it better? Because I know the numbers can be overwhelming. How does that sound? Okay, good. Anybody have any questions? You're okay? Okay, super. And you know what though, truthfully, if you haven't done this already, if you have, then let me know. But I'll be honest, I remember somebody explaining this to me. I watched like a YouTube video and I was like, oh, I get it. Yeah, I don't get it. And I had to sit down and just kind of, again, honestly, like with my index fingers, like just run this. And I actually had to think of it about something that mattered to me. I would think about, again, sorry for bringing this up, but I just have so much experience in retail, and I would think about when somebody left my store and went to another store, or if somebody left merchandising and went to, being on cash, like try to make this almost like, hey, if somebody left my book club and went to the bowling club, whatever speaks to you. Okay, question. This means that nobody moved from B to A. Nobody moved from, yes, 36 people moved from B. So take a look at the second column, because this column is all devoted to, hey, what happened in or out of B? 36 people moved from B. Now I run it horizontally to A. So let me actually pull out maybe another, let's go orange. Okay, sorry. B lost 36 people. Bye, we left you. And where did they go? They went to A. So the column is bye, and the row is welcome. Okay. So the other small sliver percentage of all of this, and why it frankly matters, is because, again, remember, we're saying, hey, probably if this happened in 2017, then that's how we, back then, could do all of our planning for 2018 or maybe 2019, depending, of course, when you do your planning. So we want to understand the movement of personnel. I need to understand who's coming and who's a-going. I need to understand my retention and my turnover. History tends to repeat itself. So it helps us to plan this for the next year that you're saying, well, probably if that happened in 2017, then I should expect this for the next year for which I am planning. Now, all of these numbers don't add up. Don't even pay attention, in my opinion, to any of these starting points or ending point numbers. All that Markov is saying in terms of relying on a precedent-setting year is the percentages. Take a look at the far right corner, just because I haven't drawn there yet. In this corner, it says 70% of Department D is going to stay in Department D. D to D, that's retention. Again, aside from the actual quantity of humans, we can plan accordingly based on the percentage. So if you analyze all of these decimal numbers, they're all the same. And that's what Markov analysis is really saying. That's how you can do all of your probabilistic forecasting. It's almost like saying, if I spent, I don't know, $3,000 on Christmas gifts last year, whew, I should probably expect to spend at least $3,000 again this year. Look, maybe you will, maybe you won't. I hope you won't. No, but maybe not. But if you did it last year, that's what you got to go on. So you can start doing your budgeting. It's kind of like saying that. How does that fit? Let me know what you're thinking, how you're feeling. Oh, okay, super. Anybody else still a little bit foggy? Oh, good. Okay. Now, again, I predict, just based on what we've seen of the past, I don't think you're going to get, let's say, a table that's empty and it says, fill in the holes based on the following information. Look, anything's possible. I just don't predict it because it doesn't fit in really even to the type of questions you can expect. But I do predict you might get a little bit more of like a theoretical question. going to tap into your knowledge and your understanding of, like, how does this work and why do we rely on it? And that's why I think it's important to understand, I think, like, where these numbers, more so the percentages, how they help to figure out the math, but also how they help to use future forecasting. So even if you just, get a question, and again, it won't be mathematical, I predict, but if it is theoretical, you can close your eyes and you'll remember this moment. Okay, I'm just wondering how they will ask this. Oh, I didn't even know that, Amelia, you typed that. So did I answer that question by fluke? Okay, perfect. Wow. I'd like to say great minds think alike, but your mind is great, mine not so much. So in fact, I actually worry for you then. Okay, perfect. I have seen a question kind of like this. Oh my gosh, I'm going back like 5 years ago or so, but I do remember seeing a question about Markov analysis, and amongst like the 4 possible options, I don't know if I got the question right. I'll never know if I got the question right, but I think I did, because I remember the light bulb for me went off when I saw movement of personnel. I can't remember what the other options were, but I do remember thinking to myself, those tables, these numbers, why did I care? I needed to know who was coming in and who was going out. So who's moving in this fishbowl? I hope that helps. Okay. Oh, good. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, guys. Well then, oh, go for it. I'm all ears. I don't have to be somewhere for about 23 minutes. Okay. Sorry. The math questions, where can I find the answers? Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you what, I don't know how to describe it. I'm going to erase all of this off my screen. I'm going to pull up my live browser and I'll show you how to do it, because I don't know how to describe it, because I put it in a couple of places. Definitely the buzz. Start with the buzz. Okay, I'm going to erase this. Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay. Pull up my browser. Where is it? Where is it? I have no idea. Okay, let's just share my screen. Sorry, oh, no. I need to minimize a couple of, can you guys see let me know if you can see, probably my desktop right now. You cannot minimize Zoom when you are sharing a Zoom window. Okay, sorry. I'm so confused. Okay, so let's head on over. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, so now you can see my Google page. Basically, in about 2 seconds, I'm just loading up now. I want you to be able to see the Hive. So I'm just loading it up right now. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. Can you now see group 19 in the learning space, or the Hive? Perfect. Okay. So let's see, where did I do this? So one place I did it, which should definitely be hard to find, I tagged it to lesson 10. So if you click on the actual activity back in lesson 10, and this was me putting out the questions, if you click on it, you will see it's really hard to find, but I added a little comment here, and that's where hold on. Oh, Fatutu. Hold on. Sorry. Let's try that again, Jen. Sorry. I basically tagged it back in lesson 10, but I also added it to the buzz. So maybe we'll try the easier version. So let's go to the buzz, and you can try either all activities, or you can try, let's see, under lesson and curriculum. Hold on. No, it was here. I did it. In fact, I tried it out with your group first, and then it was so successful, and I actually had somebody from your group comment on it. Sorry. Try all activity. Hold on. I did it on Friday, so I'm looking for, whoa. Hold on. It's like it got erased. I'm sorry. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm sure this is, and my lesson recaps aren't here either. Okay, that I posted today. Sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. You're probably thinking, wow. Oh, no, here it is. Lesson 12 recap. Okay. There's 2 documents. So I did post it. Sorry. sorry. I'm sorry. You're probably thinking, wow, you're really losing it. Okay. I will absolutely post it again. I'm just more like puzzled, like, but I know I did this. Okay, I'm going to go back here and let's see. In lesson 10, I definitely, you know, when I spoke to one of my coworkers who actually lives in the Philippines, he came to visit us recently, and anyways, I was apologizing a lot, and he's like, you know what? You guys do apologize a lot. Okay, I'm back in lesson 10. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Under the green section activity, I'm clicking on the one comment. There it is, calculate. Click on that. Oh, here it is, answer key. But it should be a little bit more obvious than that. Do you see that all the way to the far right? Answer key. Yeah, but I posted in more than one place. So there's the answer key. I can tag you to this, I think. Share it? Whoa. Hold on. Oh, no, but then I have to follow you. Which I can follow you. Hold on. Can I experiment something with you? Sorry, Amelia, I'm talking to you. Hold on. And if you didn't know this, guys, anybody who plays around. So I'm going to follow you. I'm now officially stalking you. And I should be able to now create another comment. I'm going to add you, Amelia. Check this out. Check this out. I'm going to add this to you. If you are in the Hive or whenever you go into the Hive next, let me know, because this could be really fun. And I'm still recording, right? So anybody who sees this, let me know. And we'll see how that works. Oh, I think I just tagged you directly. Cool. I do say that a lot. You're in Toronto in July? Yeah, we do say it a lot. Okay, anyhow, so back to the original point. I thought that anything I add goes into the buzz, and I believe I mentioned it here. I'll add it again to my comment for the buzz, because obviously that it should be in your face and obvious. You shouldn't have to kind of like go digging with like, you know, a shovel. So I will add it again, and I'm sorry for the trouble. But yes, if you go back to lesson 10 and look on the far right-hand side, you should find it. Yeah, check it out. And also you should have a message, I guess, technically waiting. If you take a look at the little ding-dong bell at the top right-hand corner, you also have this message from me because I specifically tagged you to it. And there's a little lesson in, I guess, the LMS. So just for fun. Okay, guys. I don't know about you. My eyes are going to explode. Any other questions? Anything I can do? Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm sorry that you had to see this whole workout thing, but thank you for being my guinea pig. Learning a lot just in this platform alone. So thanks for being patient with me. Alrighty, guys. You guys have an amazing rest of your night. I'll get out of your ears. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.